Welcome guys, in this video we'll discuss what is Angular Directive, what are the different types of directive, and what are the built-in directives in Angular library. Now remember, we will have a separate section dedicated on Angular Directives where we will discuss things in details, but for now this is just an introduction to Angular Directives. With that being said, let's get started. So what is a directive? As per the definition provided by Angular website, directives are those classes which adds additional behavior to the elements in your Angular application, by which it means that it can change or alter the behavior of a standard HTML element or a custom component or even another directive. So let us try to think about those behaviors that we might want to change about our HTML element. Let's say you have an HTML element and based on certain condition, you want to dynamically apply certain styling on that element. Or probably you have a condition based on which you might want to hide a certain part of your UI. And when the condition is changed, you might want to show those elements. Or probably you might want to repeat a certain section of your UI because you have a list of information to display to the user. Now fortunately, the use cases that I have just mentioned are part of your Angular built-in directive. That means you don't have to create a directive by yourself to achieve this kind of functionality. These are already provided in Angular library as a built-in directive. Let's have a look on the types of directive. Angular provides three kinds of directive: component, attribute directive, and structural directive. Now components are a special kind of directive which comes with a template, and this is the most commonly used directive. We are already introduced to components without realizing that this is a kind of directive. If you have not watched the introduction to the components video, link is provided in the top right corner. So don't forget, when you create a component or use a component, these are also a special kind of directive only. Next we have attribute directive. This is the directive that changes the appearance or behavior of an element, component, or another directive. To use an attribute directive, you can use a syntax similar to this. You will have an opening tag for your HTML element or probably your selector of your component, and you can put the name of your attribute directive within the opening tag. And it is that simple to use. But occasionally you can also pass in some value to your attribute directive if you need to perform certain action based on certain value. You are also allowed to use property binding with the attribute directive. If you want your attribute directive to behave dynamically based on a certain value, then you can take the help of property binding. Next one is structural directive. This is the directive that changes the DOM layout by adding or removing certain DOM elements. So the previous directive, which is attribute directive, do not change the structure of the HTML. It only changes the behavior of the HTML element over which it is applied. But structural directive actually changes your HTML structure. Structural directive have a special syntax. It starts with a star followed by the directive name. Usually we use the structural directive accompanied by an expression based on which the structural directive decides that which element to display or which one to hide. Now there are few directives which are part of the Angular library itself. These are known as built-in directives. The built-in attribute directives are ng-class, ng-style, and ng-model. Out of which the first two are for dynamically apply certain style to your HTML element. The last one helps you manage your forms. I have already discussed the ng model in our two-way data binding video, so to get a detailed understanding about the ng model, you can check out that video. Angular provides the following built-in structural directives: ng-if, ng-for, and ng-switch. I will discuss each of these built-in directives in the next couple of videos, so see you there.